with the help of a CBCT, how you can know how difficult your case could be. You can educate your patients how your what are the limitation of this case and what are the risks associated with this case. And the purpose of using a CBCT is to making your life more predictable, making your extraction more predictable. So just to brief you, I'm Dr. Suresh Ludwani. I have done my master's in maxillofacial radiology. I run a diagnostic center called Oroscan. So we have a 15 branches across India, and we are also associated with 3D printing and aligners too. So I have been using different machines of CBCT, so I have a good amount of exposure to all the softwares which are available. So today the software will be a key important for us, because I will be demonstrating you that how can you use the software for deciding many things related to third molar extraction. So let's start with it. Now we all know there is a limitation to a 2D radiographs. We all have a habit of getting an IOPA done or an OPG done to for a third molar extraction. But we all know the third molar, the 2D radiographs has a limitation. This is a small slide showing that, for example, there is a cylinder which is kept and the light source is passed. You can see it will give a different impression on both the sides. So it also, the 2D radiograph, it all depends upon many factors, the way on the patient's position, the exposure parameters, and post processing image processing. So it depends upon many things, and ultimately there are multiple overlying structures which can never give you a detailed information. We were thinking about the stool structure. Imagine there are multiple structure. The third molar has an inferior alveolar nerve. There is an external oblique ridge, and the number of trabeculitis. There could be a second premolar. There will be a multiple structures around the third molar. So it will become more. It is more and more difficulty. It's always we can always take a chance and do the procedure, but we never know then what would be the fate. Sometimes your luck doesn't follow the path, and it might won't be as we wanted. So let me start first with a basic thing. Let me just tell you with a basic that how should we use CBCT, and what are the different things which we need to take into consideration while doing a third molar extraction. But before we start, we always tell that the CBCT is a three-dimensional. When we say three-dimensional, means we can view every structure in a three-dimensional way. When we say with three-dimensional, there are three sides of it. First is in coronal. What does the coronal mean? When you are viewing any structure from the front, it is called a coronal view. Second is sagittal. What is sagittal? Remember, as side. When you view something from the side, it is called sagittal. And what is axial? Axial view is a top view. When you view from the top, it is called an axial view. So we will be reading that how which structures are seen basically important in which view. Let's again come down to these things. You can see this is a side structure. You can see the mesodistal, so it's a side, so it's called sagittal. And the top one is a top view. When you see it from the above, you can see the top view. You can see a mental foramen over here, and this is a coronal view. When you see it from the front, you can see it is called the coronal view. You can see all the four: it's superior, inferior, and the buccal and the lingual. So what most of the time when we get an advice from an foreign CBCT, you get these things. You get an panoramic view, you get an axial view, and you get an sagittal views. Oh, you can get an coronal view. But are these structures sufficient? Are these slices sufficient enough to for your determination of the things which you want for a third molar extraction? May or may not be. No, because today I will tell you that in which are the structures you need to see and which are the sections you need to see. So somewhere, in case you are not good at software, you can always get demand from your CBCT centers that I need those sections too. So you need to know that what structures you need to see. As I told you, this is an axial, panoramic, and the slices. Most of the time during the implant cases, this will do. But from the third molar point of view, you need much more detailed sections, which I will just tell you. So which are the structures, which are the important points which we need to take care of it? First is in position of the third molar. What is the septal position? Second, what is the depth of the third molar? The amount of bone covering the third molar. Third, relation to the second molar. Fourth, morphology of the third molar roots, whether the curvatures, thickness, and the PDL space, thickness of the cortical plates, and finally, the presence of vital structure. It might sound funny, but most of the CBCT are advised just to see the last point, just to see that what is the distance between the roots, apical region, and the nerve. But it is not always like that. There are difficulty there is always a difficulty in different things which we need to see. So you need to see many other things except the relation between the third molars and the nerve. So let's go one by one. First is the septal position of the third molar. When we say septal position, we all have seen these things. Sorry. uh, Whether the teeth can be a mesoangular, could be a horizontal, could be a vertical, could be distriangular, or could be inverse. We all know that when the most easily extracted tooth is when it is completely erupted, and after that it is mesoangular, and after that there are different. It becomes more and more difficult. The most difficult could be distriangular or inverse. But in which section we can see these views is the sagittal sections. We will all see this in the software, but let me just go. Whenever I'm going that particular point, I will tell you that which section you need to see. So this you can see it in the sagittal view. You can see it's a side view. Second is bone covering the tooth. Now, there are different classification to it, but let's not go into the more theoretical view. Let's consider. I will just tell you. When we say that there is an horizontal line going from the cuspal tip region of the second molar. So we need to see that how at what level is our third molar in comparison to the second molar. So when it at the same level, it is comparatively easier procedure. When it is slightly less below to it, and when it is completely embedded into the tooth and completely embedded into the bone. So there are different. As it goes down, it becomes more difficult. But how do we see this as a difficulty point of view? Uh, but and as I told you that it will be better seen in the sagittal view. So let's go back on the radiograph. This is in sagittal or a panoramic view, you can say it. You can see that we have passed in a horizontal line passing from the cuspal tip to it. And another vertical line we have passed through it is along the long axis of the third molar. And this yellow line you can see that we have drawn is an external oblique ridge. Now generally when you are extracting, what you will do is you will put your elevator at the right junction, the junction point where it is. Now how will you realize that the amount of increase in difficulty would be this vertical line, the vertical red line extending from the tip from the cuspal tip over horizontal line till the point at which the bone you are going to put your insertion of the elevators. So deeper it goes, difficult it is. The more difficult your red line is, more difficult it would be the extraction. So so it all depends upon the position also, and also that how deep it is. So this is a classification which has been given on the basis of the third molar extraction. The first, it depends upon that the what are the position. See, as I told you, I will start from below to above. The vertical position being the most easiest, then mesoangular, then distriangular, then horizontal and inverted. When we compare to the when we this point we will just take it afterwards, the buccolingual distance relation. but I will just brief you. The more closer it is to the buccal wall, more easier it is, and more closer to the lingual wall, it would be more difficult it is. So why, we will just discuss. Second would be the canal distance, and this also we will discuss later on. More than 3 millimeters, then it is easier. Then there are different things. And when it is completely erupted, it is easier. And now this is too is a relation between the second molar and the mandibular ramus region. This also we will discuss in the subsequent slides. So let's start with first with the roots. So there are root has a different morphology, you can see. Now this morphology has a different convexities, you can see in the root region. It could be it could be a curvature, could be in the mesodistal direction. The curvature could be in the buccolingual direction also. So when you are having a curvature in the mesodistal direction, you can see it in the sagittal view. When you are having a curvature in the buccolingual direction, you will see it in the coronal view. So the sagittal and the coronal view both are very important for you. Second, then depending upon the gravity of the severity is when the long axis of the, when we compare the long axis of the root with the long axis of the second molar, when it is incomplete, the roots are incomplete, it is much easier to extract. The roots are straight, it is easier to extract. And when the curvature, now when the curvature is in the direction of the elevation, it is the roots are favorable. When it is in the opposite direction to the elevation, then it is unfavorable. Now there are another thing is also you need to see is that these structures, these two roots will always vary. The third molar has a varied anatomy. It will have a different coronal structure anatomy and different root anatomy. So it is always necessary to understand that thing. Second is a root periodontal space interface. Now what we all know that the root has a morphology, has an PDL space around the tooth. It is also necessary to see that space. Now, as I've shown you, this can be seen in all three sections, axial, coronal, sagittal. This is a coronal view. You can see a radiolucent line which is seen between the bone and the tooth. This is called the PDL space. Now, when there is a sclerosis, means when there is a bone or cementum formation over there, it will be difficult to remove that teeth. So you also need to see the PDL space which is present over there. If it is if the PDL space is less, it will be very difficult. And at the same time, if it is having a radiopaque structure, it could be either bone or it could be either cementum. So again, it will be difficult for the extraction. Second, the bulbosity of the root. Now what does that means? Now sometimes what happens that the roots are bulbous in structures. Now how do we know whether they are bulbous or not? We need to measure the width of the roots which are present at the cervical region and at the below. So the ratio is to determine whether how the roots are bulbous or not. It is necessary to know that the roots needs to be in a standard. Whether if it is bulbar, it will be difficult, and the same time, if it is slender, if it is very thin, there is again chances that it might break. So it has to be in a very standard proportion. It can never be thin or it can never be bulbous. So in both scenario, it will be difficulty. Now width of the crown. Again, similar to the roots, this also is an important structure. With the width of the crown, whether the width, when comparing to the second molar, we need to compare whether the width of the crown, a mesodistal width of the crown is less or more. Again, it will be more the width, it will be more the amount of bone we need to trim it off to create a space for the crown to come out. So you again, this will be measured in the sagittal section. Contact with a second molar. We all know our the point at which we need to put our elevator is between at the crestal region of the alveolar bone between the second and the third molar. So we need to understand the relation between the second and the third molar, whether there is no contact or whether there is a contact with the crown, whether there is a contact with the root, whether they are overlapping, because this all will be important. there will be many a times you will see the roots of them are fused, which we call conquiescence. The roots of the second molar and the third molar are fused to each other. So it is very necessary for the from the clinical aspect to judge that if how closer it will be to the second molar, it would be difficult for you to put an elevator over there to remove. Now, as I told you, buccal and the lingual cortical plate. Now, most of the time we know that on the buccal side there is an external oblique ridge, and on the lingual side. Now you need to understand that the root, we need to see the where is the tooth, whether how either it is close to the buccal side or either close to the lingual side. If it is close to the lingual side, you can see it over here. We need to measure the width, the how much bone it is, and how thick thin the lingual bone is. Sometimes what happens if the root is inclined toward the lingual side and the lingual cortical plate is very thin and we put up the pressure, the most of the time what happens that the lingual cortical plate might fracture, and in case of the mishaps to happen, the tooth might drop it into the facial spaces. Second, sometimes what happens that we extract the teeth, we don't realize, and we leave the small cortical plate bone fractured over there, and the patient will keep on complaining there is a there is something which is keeping on pinching over there, because you never realize there is a lingual cortical plate which is fractured. And at the same time, when the tooth is completely impacted, now you need to measure the width, because you need to create a window over there to remove your coronal structure. So you need to measure the amount of bone, cortical bone, which is present. Also, you need to understand this slice more in detail, because you need to understand the amount of the quality of the bone which is present around the tooth. If the quality is more whitish or white in color, means the bone is very dense, so it will be more and more difficult for it, because the bone is inelastic. When it is more of a grayish and blackish, it is more elastic, so it will be much more easier for you to apply force and extract it. This is again viewed in the coronal view. Now, the next thing is the retromolar space available. Now, when we say the retromolar space available, that means that the space which is present from the distal portion of the second molar till the retromolar pad area initiation, the anterior part of the ascending ramus. So this needs to be, there is to be a sufficient amount of bone. If there is a sufficient amount of bone, that means the bone covering the third molar would be less. If there is less, then would be more amount of ascending ramus covering the third molar, and that would be the amount of bone which need to be removed. This is more common in the limited jaw size and in the distally inclined third molar. This again would be seen in the sagittal section. Now, the structures which we most commonly see and we are both most concerned is the vital structures. The vital structure, when we say, is in the mandibular third molar, it is in the inferior alveolar nerve canal. And for the maxilla, it could be the maxillary sinus and the greater palatine vessels, which we will go one by one. Now, if we want to classify it, how would we classify whether on the basis of the severity? We need to divide into two parts. Even when you are saying an OPG or a CBCT, you will first see whether the tooth is in contact with a nerve shadow or not, contact and non-contact. Now, when it is, then the second thing is, now you can never determine whether it is on the buccal side or the lingual side. You can also always determine it is an inferior or superior. Again, you will never be able to determine whether it is interradicular or not. There are few things which are being told in the literature and taught to us also, that helps us to determine that what could be the relation, but it is not always true. So like this is the first scenario in which you can see that this is upper is an panoramic image. You can see it appears that there is an canal shadow which is overlapping to it. Now, how it appears is that there will be a black radiolucent shadow. So, a darkening across the roots of the lower third molar would be seen. Now, when we take a CBCT, this darkening shadow is not necessarily impinging the roots. It could be either present on the buccal side or it could be present on the lingual side. Now, this is a limitation of two-dimensional. The two-dimensional will never help you realize whether it is present on the buccal side or the lingual side. It can just shadow that they are on the same plane. Like in this present, in this scenario, it was present on the lingual side. Similarly, over here, you can see a darkening shadow over present over here. Now you can see the darkening shadow is present, but the difference between this and that is that the cortical margin of the inferior alveolar nerve is visible over here, but when we see it is not visible over here. So that we can say, though it could be present on the buccal or lingual side, but since the outer cortical line is not present, so it could be in the passing through and through the center of the roots. Now it is not necessary, could be the roots. If the roots would have been buccally, then the roots, the structures would have been visible, but since it is not, it is passing through and through the structure, that's why it is not visible. And now another thing is again a darkening of the shadow, and the root, the nerve is present on the buccal side with no contact. Now, what is how can we judge whether from the 2D radiograph whether it is present on buccally or lingually? See, it is not necessarily you will always be able to see it, but always remember the structure which is more nicely seen would be present on the lingual side. If you could see the root structures nicely, then it is present on the lingual side. If you see the nerve nicely, it would be present on the lingual side. So it depends upon that. As I told you, it also depends upon that what processing error of the image has been done before giving to you. Now similar structure to it, you can see there is a darkening shadow which is present over there. There is no radiopaque outline is well maintained. It is present on the buccal side, and the so it keeps on varying. It is not always necessary it will appear. There are few cases it will appears like this, and few cases it won't. So we never know. The two-dimensional has a limitation to it. And now you can see, now in this you can see your inferior alveolar nerve is going the development of the tooth structure, development of the third molar. The canal was in contact with the third molar. So and now it is deflected downward. So it is present on the inferior direction, but at the same time we never know whether it is in contact or not. But most of the time it is contact, but whether it is present buccally or lingually, we never know. But in this scenario, we can say that it is present on the lingual side, is in contact with it, and at the same shadow we can see that the superior margin is not visible. So means the tooth is in direct contact with the nerve. Even the superior cortical plate is not present. Similarly, over here, the canal shadow is deflected downwards and is in close contact with the in the coronal half. Now you can it is deflected downward. That means it is present on the inferior direction, but we never know it is buccal or lingual. But since, as I told you, I had taught you in before that if the canal structure is canal outline is not visible on the buccal side, that means it is present not visible, that means it is present on the buccal side. So we can see that it is present on the buccal side. Now, and when we talk about the maxillary third molars, there is a vital structure apart from the maxillary sinus. We all know that when the third molar impacted, mostly in the upper side, the canal, there are the greater palatine and the lesser palatine vessels present over here. The greater palatine vessels is present on the palatal side and passing upward goes into the pterygopalatine space. So you can see that over here by the arrow it is shown the pterygo, the palatine vessels which are present, the pterygopalatine shadow which is there, and there are great palatine vessels which are present. There are possibility that during the extraction you might harm this structure and there could be a profuse bleeding. Now we know that the maxillary sinus is the most forgiving the anatomy which is present in our body. So most of the time that the tooth root the maxillary the third molar could have a varied anatomy. So and another the things which we need to keep in our mind that the sorry uh, the the bone which is present on the maxillary posterior region is highly elastic, and at the same time it is more porous. So there are possibilities that the tooth when we are extracting the third molar, there is a possibility that you might picture the tuberosity. At the same time, you know that the maxillary sinus has a very different relation with the uh, with the with the roots. It could be passing, the roots could be on the present on the buccal side or on the lingual side, or it could be impinging between the root sinus. So over here we can see there are different variate relation of the maxillary sinus and the roots. Now, this is the coronal sections which are presented over. You can see that sometimes the roots are in close contact with the in the maxillary sinus. Now, what happens that while we are extracting such roots, there is a possibility that you can leave the intact maxillary sinus lining, and there could be a possibility that you can leave a perforation over here. Now, this perforation will give a direct contact with the maxillary sinus, so the maxillary sinus would be prone to development of infection, and further it lead to a sinusitis. And so these are the patients in which we need to take care that there are possibility of maxillary sinusitis, yes or no, and we should be well informing the patients. So before going into the use of the 3D printing, let me just go through you to the software. Now let me start again. As we know that this, as I told you, there are three sections: coronal, sagittal, and the axial sections. By this, you will never realize that which is the coronal, which is the sagittal, and which is the which section it is. So let me just start with a scratch in which we can just understand that which section is which. So we can always move the cursor, and at the same time we can determine which what structure we want to see. But over here, so over here we can see these are the three sections which are present. One is the coronal view, which I told you, which will be from when viewing from the front. This is an axial view, which we are seeing from the top, and this is a sagittal which means we are viewing from the sides. Now, since we are just looking for the third molars, what I will do is that I will directly go to the axial view and try to locate my third molar. Okay, so this is my first, second, and third molar. So I will go over here and make my axis parallel. So before we go, since we just discussed, I can show you one thing is, you can see this maxillary impacted third molar. Now, as I told you, there is one important vital structure over here is this. This you can see is a pterygopalatine space, and it contains the greater palatine vessels. So now this, when you are extracting, see it is in close contact with this area. So whenever you are extracting, there are high possibility that you might harm these things, and there could be a profuse bleeding. So this is a landmark which you need to clearly see over here. Now, coming back to the mandibular third mole, since I want to make this axis parallel, so I will just make it parallel. Okay. So now let's start with small things first. So first we need to see the morphology of what kind of position is the third molar. The position is vertical, slightly distally inclined. Second is there is a good amount of space which is present from the second molar till the there is a limited there is a limited amount of space between the ascending ramus and this thing. So this is amount of bone which we need to remove. So how much is the amount of bone we need to remove? So we can always measure it over here. It's around 4.8, that this is the amount of bone which we need to remove. Now second, we need to see the roots. Now roots appear to be standard and of the same size. So neither they are slender, neither they are bulbous. At the same time, they are straight, which is an additional good findings which can help me while doing extraction. So now afterwards, now I need to see whether the roots have any ankylosis or not. Now what I mean by ankylosis is that my PDL space, you can see it over here, the PDL space is well visible. So there is no chance of ankylosis which is present. Another thing which I need to know is I need to see the buccal and the lingual cortical plate. Now I can see the buccal and lingual cortical plate, but the same cortical plate is missing in the apical region. Now this could be an hindrance for me in terms on the post-operative. So I might extract the tooth very nicely and easily, but when this, either there will be a thin cortical plate or there could be no. So while I'm extracting, there could be that this part of the cortical plate is stays back, or it might get fractured. The patient may keep on complaining that there isn't something which is impinging, or there could be the possibility that while you are extracting, this might slip into the tissue space. So again, this is very important to know that where our lingual cortical plates are. Now I need to study my inferior alveolar nerve canal. Now as I go from the from the mesial to distal side, you can see I'm just passing over here, 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 and like this. So I need to see where my the inferior alveolar canal, how to identify inferior alveolar canal. The inferior alveolar canal is the most radiolucent shadow which is present surrounded by cortical plates. So I have, this is my radiolucency. So this is the most mesial part. It is present on the lingual and the inferior side. As I go down, 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 down. Okay, over here. As I go towards the distal aspect, I can see my inferior alveolar canal, which is present on the inferior and at a good amount of distance. That would be around 1.4 mm. Ideally, it should be 2 mm, but we need to remove this thing. So 1.4 mm is also good. So it is present on the buccal side and the inferior side, and it is present on the 1.4 mm away from it. So this is again an important thing which I need to understand. Now, this is a corona. Now, in case I want to see my structures on the sagittal view, which are the other structures I would see? See over here, my maxillary third molar. Now, when I see the maxillary third molar, first I need to see where this, on the axial view, I can see it. My my tooth is inclined on the buccal side. But you can see our coronal structure, the mesial half is in close contact with the second molar. So again, I need to understand that thing, that whether I will need the root canal to be run or whether there is any resorption which is present or not. So over here on the sagittal view, as I always tell you, is a very important view. I can see it, that it is in a close contact, but it is not perforating it. At the same time, I can also see that I have three roots which is present. This is 1, 2, and 3. And at the same time, they are in close contact with the maxillary sinus lining. So there could be a possibility of a perforation over here. So again, these are the small things which I need to keep in mind before any surgeon is planning for an extraction, and all the vices as I told you. Now coming back to the presentation, that what are other things which we can help to it. Like 3D printing can help in this third molar extractions. Like over here, in case there is a completely embedded tooth into the bone. So now in case of extracting those teeth, I need to create a window into the bone to remove the coronal half and later the apical one third, the root part in case we want. Or even you can do the coronectomy. So what depend upon the surgeon. So with the help of a 3D printing, we can prepare a guide which provides you that this much amount of bone you need to remove to expose the coronal hub. So you can use such surgical guides. Second is in a second even in the maxillary sinus or maxillary canine region, you can use the same surgical guide. You can help to create the window and help you know that how much amount of bone you need to remove. At the same time, with the help of a 3D printing, you can always educate your patient about the amount of difficulty you might face during the extraction. You can always print a model and show it to him the amount of curvature which is present in the apical one third, so there is a possibility of a fracture. So these are all things you can help they help your clinical practice and help your third molar extraction to become more and more easier to it. So these are my details. In case anyone after watching the webinar wants any have any questions or queries, can always contact me. Thank you so much.